Architecture is a little different than pretty well any of the other arts. If you dislike a movie, you could leave the theater when that was possible or just simply turn off the stream. If you don't like a song, you can skip it. But unless you plan to spend the rest of your life locked away in your basement, you have to confront architecture where it exists, in the lived environment.
In today's episode, we'll be comparing two museum renovations that had a lot in common. Both involve major cultural institutions in Toronto, a leading natural history museum, the Royal Ontario Museum, known as the ROM, and a major fine arts museum, the Art Gallery of Ontario, called the AGO. Yet another similarity, almost forgot that one. Both saw major expansion campaigns that were started around the same time in the mid-aughts. Both had a significant amount of their gallery space designed in the early 1900s by the same architectural firm, Darling and Pearson. And both chose world-famous deconstructionist architects. One who was famous for his crumpled paper style designs, and the other who bragged that he had won the commission based on a paper napkin sketch. Surprisingly, only one of these ventures turned into a disaster. When you consider that the architectural style, Deconstructionism, was known for its fragmentation of the constructed building, characterized by absence of any obvious harmony, continuity, or symmetry, according to the experts at Wikipedia, which you can take with a grain of salt, as much as the fact that one of the two buildings in question was subsequently voted number 8 on the world's top 10 ugly buildings list by the now defunct virtualtourist.com website back in 2009. Sure, there were lots of Walmarts thrown up in the aughts, but Daniel Liebeskind's addition to the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto surpasses the ugliness of bland functional buildings by being both ugly and useless.
I don't know if they were being postmodern or ironic, but to name the marketing campaign that produced this thing behind us, Renaissance ROM, as opposed to either The Expanse or Invasion, is beyond me.
Warning signs were there from the beginning. The scribbling of the napkin that beat out 50 other design applicants, or choosing a star architect at the apex of his popularity, never a good idea. And things went downhill from there. To begin with, consider how wholly inappropriate the design is. Did you guess that this weirdly shaped thing was supposed to be exhibition space? Even one of the building's most ardent supporters, the Toronto Star's Christopher Hume, admitted that the interior space can be unwieldy and is hated by the museum curators, and I quote, "It gives them more space, but a lot of that space comes in the form of slanting walls and spaces they can't use." Then there were the problems with the materials. Special one-of-a-kind it may be, but seriously, aluminum siding? Oh, and things had to be altered to repair a leaky roof, and the little minor problem that the design was perfectly suited as an ice maker that then delivered sheets of the stuff, endangering pedestrians on the street below. What you see is what you get, and in this case, I think it's a disaster. I give you the Michael Leachin Crystal, designed by Daniel Liebeskind.
Behind me, you can see Exhibit B, which is Galleria Italia, part of Frank Gehry's extensive renovations of the Art Gallery of Ontario. It replaced what can best be described as a failed 1990s competitor for the entrance of a shopping mall.
The new Art Gallery of Ontario may catch some fans of the architect off guard. Rather than a tumultuous creation, this may be one of Mr. Gehry's most gentle and self-possessed designs. It is not a perfect building, yet its billowing glass facade, which evokes a crystal ship drifting through the city, is a masterly example of how to breathe life into a staid old structure. In my mind, and against the odds, Frank Gehry's redesign of the Art Gallery of Ontario ended up improving things. Like the ROM, the AGO was an agglomeration of wings and additions that grew around, in this case, the Grange, a Georgian mansion that is one of Toronto's oldest buildings. But unlike Liebeskind's self-aggrandizing attempt to disrupt the continuity of the staid old ROM and Western civilization, no doubt, Gehry's changes to the AGO remain focused on the needs of the institution. Significant new exhibition space to house a major new collection, and a facelift to help attract paying visitors to line up to see it. A lesser architect might have walked away from the strict limitations that were placed upon him when the AGO refused his initial suggestion to bulldoze the whole thing and start tabula rasa. Instead, he showed his true mastery of space by taking a collection of barely coherent buildings and weaving them together into a whole that, in my mind, is greater than its parts. The most recognizable Gehry elements of the renovation, the Galleria Italia, the Baroque staircases, and especially the titanium-clad cube, all proclaim a message of function over statement. A transcending of deconstructionism, and an open embracing of the past, which is really best exemplified by how well it all frames the most ancient and elegant part. I think a lesser architect would have clad the whole thing in some sort of cheap matte black siding to represent the void of heartless consumerism. But rather than that, we're confronted with this electric blue that seems to brighten the whole park. And I'll take that over Liebeskind's grand gesture any day.
So we've come to the end of the first episode of Architectural Follies, and I'd love to hear what you have to say down in the comments. Did you agree with my assessment? Disagree? Have another opinion? Please express it. I'd love to hear. Take care, and see you soon.